The James Show Podcast.
Does it bother you if there's Muslims proselytizing at your kids at school? Probably doesn't bother you if you're a Muslim. Does it bother you? Atheists out there, does that bother you? Because, you know, we have to hear it a lot of times as Christians, how there has to be a separation between church and state, which means there can't be any mention of anything religious in any public school at any time ever. We've seen it, of course. It's been scrubbed out of the curriculum. It's been scrubbed out of all the tests. It's been scrubbed from all the posters on the wall. It's been scrubbed from the prayers before school, during school, after school. Even after a football game, a coach cannot pray in the middle of the field without being sued. And you and I, we know what the double standard is, and we know there's no such thing as, the exceptions. If there's something wrong, if there's an inconsistency with your worldview, you need to change your worldview. They don't really care about religion being in schools. They care about Christianity being in schools. Muslims are not a threat to their power. Muslims are an ally to them politically. Why? Because they both mutually oppose you. Not because they share any values. Do you think the Muslims that are proselytizing on school have anything in common in the value system with the leftist Team Blue administration that's allowing it? You think they have similar views when it comes to how you react if your kid's gay? Because one group has a parade for them, the other group chucks them off a building, yet somehow they're both on the same team here. You think they have similar views on whether or not women should have their full complement of human rights? Whether or not their witness should count the same in a court of law? How do you like how their rape laws are set up? You like that Me Too movement? Why don't you run that past your local HR department? See how they feel about the treatment of women under Sharia law. But this comes from a viral video that got passed around. I saw it yesterday, so I'm going to assume it came out yesterday. And I didn't even find the original. I found one that had been passed around a couple times. But I want you to meet Marco, Wiley East High School. They got this yesterday for you.
Hello, tell me the story. What happened today at school?
Okay, so I'm Marco. I'm the president of the High School Republicans at Wiley East High School. And today there was an organization called Why Islam that had a huge table booth in the front of our school today, and they were giving hijabs to Muslim girls out throughout the high school, and they were giving out Qurans, and they also had pamphlets about Sharia law and other Islamic things, and they were giving out these bags. And I had a discussion with the women that were there, and we're trying to understand what's going on.
Was everybody in a hijab?
So they were passing out to as much, girls as they could, so that was their goal.
How many students took those bags?
I don't have an exact number of how many people took them, but I can say that they were trying to get as much out as they could.
And it was during the school day, right?
Yes, it was during lunch.
During lunch.
And we typically have colleges come out, where we have our clubs have tables, but we've never had a faith group, to my understanding.
So Christians have never been allowed to come?
Not from what I've seen. I've never seen churches or Bibles passed out. I can't affirm that that's 100%, but what I can say is that this was a big thing that they wanted to push out today.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you.
So the people that get their hair on fire every time Jesus is in the hallway of a public school, where are you at on this one? You're not going to protest this one? You realize what it means to be passing out a hijab at school? A hijab is an instrument to oppress women. No, you don't get to choose whether or not you wear something on your head. Sharia law makes you wear something on your head. If you don't, your husband's allowed to beat you with a stick that's no wider than his thumb. I'm not making this up. This is in Sharia law. Has been for 1,400 years. Are you cool with that? Me Too movement? All you feminists that were at the Grammys telling us we're on stolen land? You got no problem with this? We're passing out hijabs. We're passing out something that we force on women, that they have to do against their will or they get punished. Where all you people, the My Body, My Choice people, where are you at on the hijabs being passed out at public schools? You okay with that? Bunch of hypocrites. You bunch of two-faced, dishonest, anti-Christian bigots. That's all you are. You're not even worried about religion in school. You just don't like us. You just don't like Christians. Admit it. Start at that first point, and then let's have the honest debate here. Because you can go to the nearest lefty podcast right now, Jennifer Welch, one of the biggest ones. How does she feel about, let's throw in race too, white Christians. How do you feel about that one?
White evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield.
Yeah, you get that? You're the worst people in society. Never mind the fact that when you do all the studies and the surveys and the math, that you're the most generous people in society. You're the faction of America that donates and volunteers more hours of labor every year than anybody else. You're also more likely than any other demographic on the planet to foster and adopt kids. You're the greatest people in the world, and you just get slandered over and over, and they keep trying to erase you, and you keep being nice about it. And now that they're rubbing this right in front of your face, they're handing your daughter a job at school behind your back while you're at work paying the taxes that fund their salary. What's it going to take? Look, and this is something they've been taught here. This is Rosie O'Donnell like 15 years ago. Just same thing.
Radical Christianity is just as threatening as radical Islam. In a country like America, where we have a separation of church and state.
Now, we all know that radical Christianity and radical Islam are not equal threats. What's the radical Christian bombing that's happened? Has a radical Christian ever put on a suicide vest and gone into a pizza parlor and blown himself up? Who flew the planes into buildings on 9/11? Was it a Lutheran with a grudge? Why do they say this stuff? And I think it's even worse than that. Because if radical Christianity was just as bad as radical Islam, y'all be freaked out about the table at Wiley East High School. But you're not. Look, they ignore anything that makes you look sympathetic. They ignore anything that makes Christians look sympathetic to the outside world. Remember, this was a story I had last week. This happened last week, and you haven't heard anything about it in the national news. Listen to this.
At a corner store just up the street. The stabbing happened at the SS Quick Stop grocery store. Pierce County deputies say the victim told officers that the suspect asked what religion he was, and when he said he was a Christian, the suspect reportedly stabbed him and his dog. Both were taken to hospitals in serious condition, and deputies say the dog went into emergency surgery. Deputies were searching for the suspect then for more than 2 hours after he ran from the stabbing scene. He was spotted by deputies around 8:40 a.m. who made contact with the suspect in a house's backyard. Armed with multiple knives, officers say the suspect was resisting arrest and made movements toward deputies. He was then shot by multiple deputies. Police say he was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Now the Pierce County Force Investigation Team is handling the scene.
Are you okay with the Muslim groups proselytizing at students in Texas public schools? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Now listen, this is another issue where public schools are kind of the backstop on why we're having an issue at all. If this was all privatized, if we didn't have public schools, I'd have a lot less to complain about. But since we have them, and they're going to shut down your religion, they're going to let this other one with a much worse record of civil and human rights, they're going to let that one flourish. You know, if you were born and raised on the other side of the planet and you come here and, you know, you're like 50 years old and wearing a hijab's all you've ever known, and so just out of force of habit or whatever, sense of duty, you wear a hijab, no one really thinks bad of you. We kind of feel sorry for you when it's 104 degrees and you're still wearing it outside, or we feel sorry for you when you go to the pool and you're dressed like a ninja and it's 104 degrees, and I know that's not comfortable. I know that's not what you would prefer. But if you're born and raised here and you wear a hijab, you're oppressed, bro. You are being trained by your parents, probably just the male side of your family, that you don't have the freedom to let your hair show. And I don't know. That's not good. That's not good. This is a Christian nation, rightfully so. And it's not bigotry to say we shouldn't be invaded by people who don't share our values and would change this country into something that the Founding Fathers did not intend. Because if that change means we're not going to have our full complement of civil rights, so then I don't like your change, and no one should like it. 800-288-9227. This is Jim in Garland. Hey, Jim, you're on WBAP.
Hey, James. One of the things that bothers me about this, not only are we a Christian nation, but look at where that Wiley East High School is. It's just off of 78 south of Lake Lavon, and it's about 5 miles from where that Epic Center that they've been talking about, the Muslim community that they have been trying to build and segregate out there. So I just wanted to throw that in the mix. I wonder if that ties into this, where they're trying to start to convert that community to come that way.
That's a great connection you're making, Jim, because I'll brag that this kind of stuff doesn't happen in Bucktussle, but of course it doesn't happen in Bucktussle. I don't even think we have a Muslim student in Bucktussle ISD. We just have whites, blacks, and Mexicans, and I don't mean that as a pejorative. It's literally just white people, black people, and either you're a Mexican national that's here illegally or you're a Hispanic of Mexican descent. So, no, I mean, some schools don't have this problem, but if they are having this problem, you're right, Jim, it's probably have a pretty high concentration of Muslims to begin with to think that they feel, that overt and open to just do this. And also, how many does it take to cow the administration?
Exactly.
Well, what do you do about it, Jim?
Well, doing what I can, try to publicize what's going on and make people realize how close that is to being in our own backyard.
All right, here's what realize it. If I was in charge of such things, Jim, this is what I would recommend. People don't listen to me very much, but maybe they should. I think we should just go into many public schools as possible and start passing out crosses and Bibles and pamphlets and religious tracts and make them stop us and then go, oh, well, what about these guys? And just put them on blast, call them on their bluff. Oh, it's cool. We can proselytize the school again, y'all. Let's get on it. We should be doing this first.
Like it. Great idea.
All right. Well, Jim and Garland agrees. Everyone else, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And if you roll down your window right before I talked to Jim and I said this is a Christian nation, you could probably hear some people gasping and losing their mind and getting the vapors and having to sit down because they've never heard such horrible blasphemy. Everybody knows baby Jesus hates this nation, right? No, this is a Christian nation. It's not a secular nation. It's not an atheist nation. That's a Marxist wish list. But the best rundown on how this is a Christian nation and just irrefutable proof that this is a Christian nation came from Charlie Kirk last year.
Remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. You could, even in actually, 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. Common law is an outgrowth of the Scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law. Presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which we get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on the stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution two things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution?
There you go. That's Charlie Kirk, the great Charlie Kirk. And yeah, taxpayer-funded Bible printing. Maybe that's how we fight this. So, where's all the separation of church and state people on this one? Well, if they're not griping about this one, then they're not really concerned about religion being in schools. They just don't want Jesus to be in schools. They're just anti-Christian. They're just bigots. Sam Richardson, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hi. So my question is, I wonder if the students were there to actually get people to convert or to actually educate them because of so much misinformation about Islam going around.
Why would...
For example, the hijab, okay?
Right.
Nowhere in the Quran is it required for women to wear a hijab. If you know the name Benazir Bhutto, she was the first and only woman prime minister of Pakistan who was assassinated. She was Muslim. She hardly ever wore the hijab. The hijab is only required, was only required in the Quran in the days of Muhammad to distinguish Muhammad's wife from other women. So where
does all that come from? Is that in the Hadith or something?
No, it's in the Quran. So the Middle East requiring women to do that, that's just so men can have control over women. It has nothing to do with Islam.
Well, it does have something to do with Islam. It might not meet your...
Well, it's not in the Quran. That's what I said.
Okay.
It was
look, it's associated with Islam. Now, purgatory isn't in the Bible, but we associate it with Catholics because it's definitely a Catholic thing. So the hijab is still a Muslim thing, even though it's not specifically in the Bible. It's still the regular practice of every Muslim-dominated country on the planet. But no, I don't know if I would make a distinction whether or not we're not trying to convert anyone. We're just trying to educate people and correct any of the misinformation and misunderstanding we might have about our religion. That sounds like an easy cop-out, and I don't buy that.
Well, I do, because I started looking into it. So I've been to mosques. I have plenty of Muslim friends going back 25 years. I know plenty of women that don't wear the hijab. You go to Richland Community College, well, what used to be Richland Community College, by the North Texas Islamic Center. Tons of Muslims in that school. And there's lots of women that don't wear the hijab. Of course, there's also, you'll find some that do.
All right, but
so
okay,
it's not like a requirement or anything. They're not going to be.
So, in what Muslim country is it not a requirement?
In what Muslim country? Well, we're not in a Muslim country. That's my point.
I know.
Muslims came here to get away from the extreme element. That's why they voted.
Some of them did. Some of them are handing out hijabs in high school.
Okay, well, that I can't speak to because I haven't seen the video and I wasn't there. But I do know this.
Okay, assume it happens. Does that bother you?
Well, no. I'm saying if you look at Dearborn, Michigan, who they voted for Trump. Because they want secure borders. They don't want the terrorists coming over here. They don't want that extreme element here.
Bro, if you're trying to convince me that the Islamification of American culture is a good thing, I would just point at every Muslim-dominated... Hang on.
Islamification is not happening.
Of course it's happening. They're trying to build an Islamic center right now, and they already have some. They have 2 Sharia courts that are operating in Dallas right now. Tell me where Muslims have become a majority of the population and Islamification hasn't happened.
I don't believe they're going to become a majority of the population here in the United States.
Okay, so you're admitting that whenever they do become a majority of the population, Islamification has happened everywhere it's tried.
I don't believe it'll happen here because we have our Constitution.
So that's a yes?
The courts will strike it down.
Did Iran have a constitution before the Muslims took over?
Well, here's the problem with Iran. We sent in a CIA covert operation to topple a democratically government called
Agreed.
Operation Ajax.
Agreed. We agree with that. However, after the Muslims took over, was there a pre-existing constitution at any of these Muslim countries? Was that enough to stop the Islamification of that country? Because you just said that can't happen here. We have the Constitution. But everywhere they become a majority, the previous system of governance had no bearing on whether or not it became Islamified. All of them did.
I just don't see that happening in the United States.
What do you think happens when they if let's just imagine the hypothetical, if they become a majority of the population? Will be Islamified.
If they become a majority, I don't believe so. If they become a majority of the population, the Muslims I know, and I know a lot, including imams, and I've been inside mosques.
But Sam,
they don't want that. That's not what they want here in the United States.
Of course it is.
They got out of the Middle East. No, they want to stay in the Middle East. That's what they want.
Sam, give me one example of where, when they went and took over a country, this didn't happen. That's all I'm asking.
Well, we don't have enough history behind it. All we got is the Middle East, and they're in archaic time.
We have 1,400 years of history on it, and no, it's not just the Middle East. Is Indonesia in the Middle East? Do women of Indonesia have their full complement of human rights?
Are Christians allowed to practice in Indonesia?
That's not what I asked.
Oh, there's no Islamification. There's no forceful conversion in Indonesia.
They don't have a moral police. They don't require the hijab. They don't enforce Muslim standards on the beaches there, except for Bali. They make an exception for Bali if you're at the resorts where the foreigners stay. Sam, listen.
I'm uneducated on that part.
Right. Look, you're pushing back on everything. I guess you're a Muslim convert, and
Not
you're just
everything. I'm a Christian. I love my neighbor as myself, and I'm not going to spread misinformation about the Muslim community when people.
Sam, I hate it when you say that. Nothing I've said is misinformation, and so when you say that, you're like dismissing. What did I say that was incorrect?
Okay, that women are required to wear the hijab. Nowhere is that in the Quran. If people are preaching that is against the Quran's teaching.
Okay, Sam, I have friends that lived in Muslim countries. They told me.
I know, and then there.
Sam, let me finish my damn sentence. Are women required to wear a hijab in Iran right now?
Yes, but not due to the Quran.
Okay, fine. Well, then you just have some sort of semantic argument, Sam. You need to wake up, sir. Because everywhere they take over, women are required to wear the hijab. I don't care if it's in the Quran or not. I'm talking about the real world, not your hypothetical, theoretical theology of what it should be. Look, everywhere this happens, women lose rights. People lose rights. Your freedoms are curtailed. There is no pre-existing constitution that survives it. They all get overthrown and replaced with a Sharia-competent form of government. It has happened everywhere they become a majority of the population. You don't have one example to the contrary. You just have your, I don't think it could happen here. Well, I bet you every single place that they took over thought it couldn't happen there.
So are you saying Benazir Bhutto is wrong? She was to the National Prayer Breakfast numerous times here in the United States, not wearing a hijab.
Sam, I'm going to have to let you go. We're out of time. There's no reason to talk to him. Might as well talk to this piece of board right here. Karen in Dallas, you're on WBAP. Go, Karen.
Hey, James. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to let you know that guy, Sammy, talking about the Muslims handing out hijabs and things like that, he needs to do a little bit more research because I don't know where he gets his information because I've lived in a Muslim country. It wasn't quite like it is today.
Where'd you live?
I lived in Turkey for 3 years.
Did you have to wear a hijab?
No, I did not.
Fantastic.
I did not.
See, it was almost like a trick question I was asking Sam, because when I asked him one is like, where have Muslims taken over where women don't have to wear a hijab? There's actually an answer to that, but I wasn't going to give it to him if he didn't notice.
Well, I just looked it up on Google, and it says it's in the Quran. So I don't know which part of the Quran he's reading.
No, Karen. Sam knows more about the Quran than Muslim countries.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not get that when I heard him talking.
Karen, he has Muslim friends, and he's more open-minded than we are. So he's done his research. We need to do our research, Karen. We're just idiots, so... Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I just wanted to let you know that this has been a very good show that you've had today. I don't always listen to you every day, but, I'm so glad that I turned in today because you are right on about a lot of things.
Well, thank you.
Colin Aldred, let me tell you, I hope the guy who runs against him wins because Colin Aldred is kind of like up there with Jasmine Crockett, and he does have a white wife, though. I don't know if anybody knows that.
Well, he also has a white mom, and he's never met his black dad, so he's one of us. That kind of bothers me. Colin Allred is definitely passable and would be accepted as one of us. Grew up around one of us. He has our accent. You notice he doesn't have the black accent that sometimes
that's true.
That Jasmine Crockett affects whenever it's convenient.
Yeah.
No, And does that sound real hateful, or does that sound inclusive? Dude, you're one of us. Why are you trying to
he could be one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
until he opens his mouth.
Well, that is a funny coincidence that you bring up because since he is married to a white lady and his mom's a white lady and he has nothing to do with the black side of his family, when he goes to a family reunion on either side, it's just all white people.
Yeah, that must be very uncomfortable.
Come on, Colin. Why can't you be one of us, man? If this was a white supremacist country and there was structural racism everywhere, wouldn't he be trying to pull that card? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Exactly.
All right, you know what? Let me go back and thank you for circling back to that, Karen. You're super helpful because I need to play that audio. And it looks like most of what ails us in the headlines today would be fixed if we just got rid of public schools. For all the kids that are walking out in public schools, there's a big walkout yesterday. I was playing you some audio, some kids having a hissy fit in the street. They got to make some signs and ditch some class. That would be fixed. That wouldn't be a problem there if we didn't have public schools. Then you could send your kid to the school that doesn't protest. Or maybe if the kid protests, it might actually be something you agree with for 5 seconds. But that's really the problem here is the double treatment. They never walk out of class to go support ICE. They never walk out of class to go support gun rights. They never walk out of class to go support a balanced budget. It's just always something against you, but maybe that wouldn't be the case if we had all privatized schools. Also, there's the issue of a Muslim student group proselytizing in a Wiley East High School, and they're passing out hijabs and Qurans and pamphlets, and apparently the administration doesn't care. Apparently all these people who protest the Ten Commandments don't care. That really wouldn't be a problem either if we had private schools only. School choice starts tomorrow. A lot of people are griping that their kid doesn't qualify or not enough kids qualify, or maybe the school choice money, that's going to go to religious schools and there's separation of church and state. All that would be solved if we just did all private schools.
The James Show Podcast.